right, well, happy lunch hour, gang. We'll do something a little fun today for a change. Some of my onions are about ready to be picked, so I wanted to show you the correct way to when to pick onions, when you know they're ready, and then we want to kind of take a look at how to process onions, how to store them, how to dry them, how to store them, etc., etc. So let's kind of go through a little bit of all of that. All right, so here's my onion patch, and some are ready and some are not, okay? And a lot of people will tell you that when the greens of the onion fall, that means they're ready. Not necessarily, okay? There's a real simple test that you need to take. So if we look, let's take a look here. All right, here's an onion right here. And you'd say that one has fallen, right? All the greenery is on the ground. Except if you go right here in the neck, okay, an inch or two above the bulb, that's not soft yet, okay? That's what you're looking for, is when it's soft. So look at this one. This one's still firm. You can kind of feel like there's moisture in it. But then you look at this onion. If you can, where is it? There it is. This one, there's next to no moisture in there. This one is ready to pick. Now, you don't want to just grab the onion by the greenery and pull it out. Kind of get a shovel or your fingers or whatever and put them underneath. And now I have an onion. And that one's a little smaller than a tennis ball. So not bad. I finally found the correct onions to pick or to grow for me, where I'm getting the good sized bulbs. And for me, it turns out that Texas Super Sweets are good. And there's a difference between onions, but I'll get into that in a second. Let me pick the ones that I'm done with. Okay, so obviously now back in the garage, I picked half a dozen onions or so here. And so this is what I got. Not too bad. That's about baseball size onions. So I'll take that, no problem. But as you can see, that one is done. This is nice, and I can almost put my fingers together in here. I can't feel any strength or any moisture in there. So this one's done. It's important that you pick your onions when they're at this point. Obviously, I didn't take all of mine. I've got, 60, 70 onions out there, something like that. And I picked, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Okay, those are the ones that are ready. If I'd have waited for all of them to be done at the same time, these would be rotting in the ground. Once that stem bends like that, it's done growing. So leaving it there isn't going to do any good. And onions aren't like carrots or something where they can stay in the ground. It will start to rot. So make sure you're checking your onions. These are early for me, okay? Mid-June, that's early to be picking onions. Usually you're talking at end of June. Summer solstice is usually when you're starting. Now, granted, we're, 10 days away from it or whatever. We're close. But it was a real good onion year. And why do I say that? Because it's been extremely rainy, and onions love water. And love nitrogen to grow, and then off and running you go. It's been so rainy, so we got real good onions. Now, depending on the onions you're growing, you have different storage time. These, as I said earlier, are Texas Super Sweet onions. If you get, as Mrs. P calls them, angry onions, or those ones that are really pungent, the ones that really make your eyes water, okay, totally different. Those pungent onions, those you could feasibly store. They're good for 6, 8, you could get maybe 12 months of storage out of them. Sweet onions, try 6 or 8 weeks, okay? These are what you're going to be using now for fresh onions, using them for cooking. We use them to make my chili, which I'll make more chili this year. Our cabbage will be in a few weeks, and Mrs. P will be using these onions to make kimchi, okay? So we're gonna be canning, preserving the onions that way, not as whole onions. I wanna get that out so you know the difference between sweet onions and pungent onions. Now, to process these is a little different than a few weeks ago when we were processing garlic. It's actually the opposite. Even though they are both alliums, we are going to process our onions differently. Remember with the garlic, what I said you do is you cut off the roots and leave the green? Guess what? With onions, that's not the only way to do it. I know some of you guys like to braid your onions, okay? I'm gonna show you why. With onions, I wanna cut off the greens, leave about 1 inch to 2 inches of stem, and leave the roots. Exactly the opposite of onions. Now, with this is the reason I do it this way. With this, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to trim off the dead, and as you can see, this is how I knew they were starting to get ready, okay? They're starting to brown, okay? This is when I pick my onions because I want to use all the greens. We will use some of these greens in salad. I will trim off the bad parts and keep the good parts of the green. The rest of it, I will dehydrate and chop up, and now I've got onion flakes that you can use in soups or stews or anything like that, you know, as opposed to the stuff you're buying. So, we'll take all these onions, and again, cut it off 1 inch or 2, and that's done. And then I have a whole bunch of onion scapes that I will be able to process differently. So what do I do next? And this is the key. You've got to dry your onions. Now, everybody's got different setups. You know I've got this thing built up here, which is my wire rack drying setup. I will set my onions up on there. Of course, the first thing I want to do, before I forget this part, is wipe off as much of that dirt as possible. You are trying to dry these onions, and there's moisture in that soil, so you want to get that off as best you can. Just use your fingertips, don't use a brush or anything like that, because you don't want to damage the onion. If the onion gets bruised, it's going to rot, so you want to be very careful with them. They are delicate at this point. Onions cure somewhere between 75 and 85 Fahrenheit, okay? So, depending on the temperature you keep your house, maybe that works. For me, the garage is perfect, okay? Which is pretty much where I dry everything, because it stays 75 to 85 in here in the summer. Even if it gets to be 90 degrees outside, no big deal. It gets cold, no big deal. But you need air circulation too, okay? Ceiling fan. All right? Yeah, I know how many people have a ceiling fan in their garage. Okay. But I do specifically for this purpose. Trust me, ceiling fan is not keeping the garage cool. But when I have my onions, my garlic, my potatoes, whatever I'm trying to dry, that gets some good air circulation. And because it's a wire mesh table, if you will, I'm getting air circulation all around all of it. That's the point. You do not want to do this, I don't want to say outside because you can. You don't want to do it anywhere where it can rain. Let's put it that way. So if you've got a covered porch that doesn't get wet and you want to put them out to dry there, that works, okay? Do not let your onions get exposed to moisture. If the sprinkler gets up there, no. Okay, if the wind blows and the rain comes in, no. I better not get water in the garage because if the only way I'm going to is if the roof collapses. So that's my point there. It'll take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, possibly a month for these onions to be totally dry. You know, you'll see the green here. You'll see the green on the inside, okay? That has to be totally brown, not a lick of green. Don't squeeze it and get a drop of moisture out of it or anything like that. That is when your onions are ready for storage. Okay, now again, like I said, this is one way to do it. This is the way I do it. If you didn't cut the tops off and you want to braid it, once everything's completely dried out, you know, you got it braided, they're going to dry in your braids. Hey, okay, fine, however you want to do it. But doing it this way for storage. Once they're totally dried out, what do I want to do? Now, some people say you put them in a wire sack or, you know, wire bag, you know, like or not wire, but mesh bag, you know, like when you buy your onions in a store and they're in that blue like netting bag. That works fine. What also works really good, old pair of pantyhose, okay? Cut off the panty part, obviously. Use the legs, stack your onions in there. That allows air to get through, which is good. Don't have that, no problem. Store it in a brown paper bag, poke some holes in the bag. Store it in a cardboard box, poke some holes in the box. So again, there's still oxygen. Keep it out of the light, okay? You do not want to keep this somewhere that's got light, because then the onion's going to try to sprout. Because remember, onions are biennials. So the first year it gives you your bulb, the second year it gives you your seed. So, I mean, that's still a living plant right now. I could plant it, it would not give me a new onion, but it would give me onion seed, you know, flowers and seed. So that's the point on that one. Onions are best stored around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is why so many people keep onions in the refrigerator, okay? If you've got a good refrigerator that you don't worry about anything freezing in the fridge, you know how that's happened to us all. You go and you grab the milk and the milk is frozen, or whatever, you know, your cucumber's frozen. It's happened to us. Fine. Keep it in a cool spot in the house. That box, that bag, a good spot to keep it. It's right near an air conditioning duct. You're going to use the air conditioning over the summer. That'll keep it cooler. Obviously, you're not keeping your house at 40, but if you're using sweet onions, you're going to use them within the next month or two to cook with them or just eat them fresh or do whatever. If you've got the pungent onions, okay, then you're going to need to store them in a root cellar, or maybe you've got a dedicated refrigerator out in the garage that you can do with it. You've got a basement that stays cool, or a crawl space or something. That's what you're going to do. But I wanted to show you how to process onions, because for me it's early, but I'm betting people that are south of me have already been harvesting onions. And for all those of you guys that are north of me, this way you've got the information before it comes time for you to harvest. So there you go. No politics, no riots, no Ukraine, no economy. We'll talk about something today that was kind of fun and enjoyable. So have a great afternoon. I got to go finish with my onions. Pinball out.